Cradling my daughter Lily's hand in the intensive care unit, I felt her chilly skin and watched as tubes snaked in and out of her little body. The constant beeping of machines made it seem like I was trapped in a nightmare from which there was no way out. Despite my strained voice-matted hair and burning eyes from 3 days of sleep deprivation, I refused to abandon her. Then my phone started ringing. No, that was my mom. Like a scalpel in sterilized butter, her speech sliced through the air. "Tonight is the retirement celebration for your father, Madison. You really must attend." As the ventilator lifted and lowered Lily's chest, I couldn't tear my eyes away from her pale face. "Mom, Lily might die," I said, my voice quivering. A lengthy moment passed, during which the quiet hum of fluorescent lights above me and the constant hiss of oxygen could be heard. Then my mom spoke, and I felt a chill go down my spine from her icy tone. "Just be yourself, Madison. My family's needs must be met first." Something inside of me cracked in that one instant. A truth I had been too scared to utter for 37 years finally surfaced after 3 days of horror, weariness, and solitary prayers. My own voice grew louder, more aggressive and trembling. Duties to one's family. The battle for my daughter's life is intense. What gives you the willies is how things appear at a social event anyway. But my mom was unfazed. "You're making us seem foolish. Madison, you've been challenging from the start. Stop making me feel bad about all we've done for you." My view was clouded by tears. The screens of my daughter's devices went into overdrive, beeping uncontrollably, as if they could feel the tempest brewing within me. And in that little instant, I understood. Continuing to give up to a mother who would never be happy was an option, but I could also select the one person who mattered most to me. And thus it was said, expressions I never imagined uttering. "Oh no, no one including you will convince me to abandon my daughter." By the time I hung up, I had a revelation. It was at that very second that I may have spared our lives. "Hey there, I'm Madison Parker, and let me tell you, my life has always been split down the middle. The world into which I was born, as well as the one into which I have been striving continuously. I spent my childhood in a 2-story brick home in the Boston suburbs, on a peaceful street where houses flailed American flags and hedges were meticulously manicured. Our appearance was flawless to the untrained eye. It was as if I were always under a microscope on the inside. My mom, Eleanor Parker, was the type of person who thought outward looks mattered the most. Her grin could cut glass, her hair impeccably coiffed, and her makeup immaculate. At her neighborhood cocktail parties and charity luncheons, she would gracefully navigate the crowds, arranging each dish to perfection and folding each napkin into a perfect triangle. And we were held to the same standard of perfection by her. I feel this way more than other people. The golden kid was my younger sister, Emily. Her brilliant smile, impeccable academic record, and ability to enchant anybody she met were her greatest assets. People began referring to her as a little future lawyer, while she was a middle school student. On the other hand, I was present. In the classroom, I performed adequately, if not brilliantly. I used to play field hockey, but no matter how good I was never beginning. I also liked taking pictures, especially when no one was looking, using my dad's old Canon camera that I stowed away in my bag. A dog calmly sitting at its owner's feet, a stray ray of sunlight seeping through tree branches, and my classmates giggling when they thought no one was looking. While I liked taking pictures, my mother thought it was pointless. "Art isn't money, Madison," she'd reply in a harsh voice. "You ought to model more like your sister. She's making waves. Those songs defined my youth. Why are you unable to emulate Emily more? I don't see why you can't sport an Emily look. Why are you unable to think in Emily's way?" While trying to cushion the blows, Dad, my father, Charles Parker, worked as an accountant for a prestigious Boston business. Kind eyes and a soft voice characterized this reserved man. After my mom would reprimand me, he'd take me aside, put his large, comforting hand on my shoulder and say, "Maddie, your mom is only trying to help. Simply put, she desires what's best for you." However, I knew in my heart that her idea of the best was completely unrelated to my own. She hoped that I would emulate Emily's poise and drive so that she would feel confident in me at social events like PTA meetings and country club galas. My competitive spirit had died down by the time I was a senior in high school. I retreated, seeking solace in my photography and writing, longing for places where I wasn't obliged to conform. I began writing in notebooks, often doodling in the dark, as the moonlight danced over my bedroom floor and the house fell silent. There were moments when I fantasized of escaping to a city like New York or San Francisco, where I might be anonymous and unfettered. Chris Harper was my roommate during my second year of college at Boston University. He was a computer engineering major. He was humorous, somewhat reserved, and exceptionally bright in the forgetful manner that allowed him to mentally solve complicated algorithms, even when he couldn't physically locate them. My images were a hit with Chris. Rather than humiliating, he found my offbeat brand of humor endearing. Not only that, but he never once compared me to anybody else. I felt seen for the very first time. That is correct. At the age of 23, on a cool fall evening in Beacon Hill, we exchanged wedding vows. Amidst a canopy of verdant foliage, Chris muttered, "I do," as he delicately placed a little ring on my finger. "Just the way you are, Madison, I want to spend the rest of my life with you." I was trembling both from the cold and partly from the overwhelming sense of being chosen. Just for me. I told my parents, and my mom's lips clenched up until they were completely white. "Oh, you're an engineer." The words, "How practical," came out of her mouth with an icy undertone. "You are squandering your future opportunities, Madison. Why are you even considering marrying a boy whose job it is to code? You should be considering graduate school instead." Tears, shame, and contempt were all she used in her attempt to get me to back out. Except this time, I refused to budge. I felt at home with Chris's family the moment I arrived. Sunday feasts replete with mirth, his mom's world-famous chicken pot pie, and his dad's cheesy jokes, like taking a deep breath after being submerged for so long. A Cambridge chapel was the site of Chris and my wedding. The ceremony will be small, private, and filled with gentle music and joyful tears. My mom went, with an artificial grin on her face. And then she came home and said things like, "My dress was too plain, the flowers were cheap, and the venue was a disappointment," whispering, "I'm proud of you. Maddie, never forget that." My father gave me an envelope following the ceremony. We transformed a 2-bedroom apartment in Somerville into our home, with a mishmash of furniture rugs from thrift stores and a little balcony where we could enjoy stargazing on summer evenings. And then Lily showed up. For a little moment it appeared as though everything had finally fallen into place. The world welcomed Lily Harper into this world on a dreary spring morning, her thin, ferocious wail proclaiming her arrival and refusing to be ignored. She inherited my wild black hair and Chris's dark brown eyes. And the second my hands were on her, it was as if a long-lost piece of my puzzle had finally fit. During those early years, our cozy apartment was constantly rocked by the sound of babies laughing, the aroma of baby formula, and the lullaby music that played late at night. After a hard day at a software company, Chris would frequently return home with bags under his eyes. However, the moment he entered the house, he would ensnare Lily in his arms. As I watched them, my heart felt like it was going to explode. Costs were high. We shopped deals, collected coupons, and forewent expensive trips. However, we felt that our life was rich in every meaningful aspect. It was in the cramped corridor when Lily shuffled forward on her pudgy legs for the first time. Chris and I cheered like crazy as she did so. My mother's scolding and Emily's boasting about her new downtown penthouse were irrelevant to me at that moment. What really mattered to me was that Lily was fine, laughing, reaching out for me with her sticky fingers, and generally healthy. However, my mother was always meddling. Eleanor would contact at inconvenient times. "A major case was just closed by your sister Madison. DC is her destination. Meeting with senators next week. Just what are you up to right now?" Or, "Do you not think Lily would appear more put together with shorter hair as Emily used to have?" On occasion it was couched as worry. "Are you certain that freelancing offers enough stability? Could Chris's employment be terminated? You should be able to rely on a legitimate job, shouldn't you?" There was no let-up. She would still make remarks even while Chris was around. "Does getting your master's degree in business administration interest you, Chris? Doing so might lead to increased earnings. There ought to be less strain on Madison's shoulders." And kind grin would be all he did when he clutched my hand beneath the table. I had been used to our nonverbal cues at that point. "Keep her away from you," was the message sent by a light squeeze. A little tap on my knuckles sent the message, "I'm here for you," and I had mastered the art of putting on a fake grin, nodding, and changing the subject. Her comments managed to find a way through every barrier I attempted to erect. After Chris and I saved up enough money, we took Lily to New York City for a weekend when she was 7 years old. Cheap hotel, free activities, dollar slice pizza, that was about it. Meanwhile, Lily found it enchanted. While on the Staten Island ferry, she squealed with delight. As the metropolitan skyline shimmered at twilight, her face lifted to the breeze. At the Museum of Natural History, she leaned her palms on the glass while staring up at the towering dinosaur skeletons. It was just right, until we returned home and I foolishly showed my mother the vacation photographs. She took a whiff, so that appears to be charming. Someday you ought to treat her to a romantic getaway like Paris. You'll see Emily's kids there next spring. So much culture will be imparted to them. I felt a sharp pain in my chest as I gazed at the photograph in my hands. Lily's expression was one of overwhelming delight. It seemed like my efforts were always insufficient. Even so, I maintained harmony. Even though Eleanor was capable of savagely attacking me, Lily adored her. A small part of me held on to the dream that my mom would look back on my life and tell me, "I'm proud of you." That day might never arrive, even if I knew it in my heart. It was March's inaugural Saturday. A dull day ahead, grocery shopping, washing, and barring Lily's schoolwork completion, perhaps a movie night. I had hardly poured my first cup of coffee, the steam wafting into the crisp morning air, when Lily sprang into the kitchen, her cheeks flushed with delight. "Hey there, Mom. May I join Ava and her family on a ski trip today? Just an hour from now, they'll be on their way." There was a sparkle in her eyes, as there usually was when she was full of potential. A beat skipped in my chest. Going skiing. I felt a knot in my gut just thinking about it. I was scared of frozen slopes ever since a little skiing accident I had as a youngster. It wasn't a catastrophic disaster, but it did scare me. Breathing slowly, I tried to keep my emotions in check so that they wouldn't affect my kid. "Okay, ease up a bit, wearing a helmet." "Oh, absolutely," with a rolling eye, she said. "Is your phone battery life enough?" "Certainly, ma'am. How over the top are you?" I played with her hair. "Joke off your mother, who is too protective. Just a heads up, I'll be sending you texts every couple of hours, so be safe." As the morning sun reflected off her braces, she couldn't help but smile. "Oh, sure." After waiting for 30 minutes, I stood at the window and waved as Ava's SUV drove away. Lily returned the gesture, her puffy jacket ruffled by the sound of her ski poles. Disguising the uneasiness that was spreading up my spine, I returned my attention to my coffee. My phone went off at 11:17 in the morning. A mystery number. I was on the fence before responding. The voice of a lady echoes with a sense of quiet intensity. "Mrs. B. Harper, this is Northridge Ski Patrol member Rebecca speaking. There was an accident involving your daughter Lily. After colliding with a tree, she is being transported to Massachusetts General Hospital via airlift." It seemed as if a tunnel were opening up before my eyes. I clenched the edge of the kitchen counter so tightly that my knuckles turned white as my knees buckled under me. "How is she doing?" I let out a hard rasp. "The medical staff is attempting to stabilize her while she is unconscious. Quickly make your way to the hospital." Driving there is something I can't recall. Suddenly my fingers located my keys. My foot pressed the gas pedal, and the streets of Boston faded into the distance as I drove. Arriving at the intensive care unit, I was hit by the harsh and brutal glow of the fluorescent lights. The doctor's terminology was so difficult for me to comprehend. Severe head trauma, possible spinal involvement, subdural hematoma. As I waited for my mind to absorb the words, I fixed my gaze on them. "Is my daughter's life in danger?" I choked out. "A kind doctor." A gentle soul with sympathetic eyes and a hint of gray around the temples responded. "She's rather judgmental. Pay close attention to the following 2 days. We'll make every effort, but it's up to you to be ready. Brain damage is notoriously difficult to foresee." To Lily's room they escorted me. The image was so terrifying that it made me gasp for air. Monitors blazing in jagged neon lines. My once bright and indomitable daughter lay pale and unmoving on a ventilator. A bruise that was bleeding purple and black over her temple was making half of her face swell. I reached out and touched her hand, being cautious of the IV lines that snaked out of her arm. A mother says, "Hey baby, I'm right here." Nothing came out of her fingertips. She maintained her eye closure. That hospital room was my home for 3 days. Her monitors beeped in a way I couldn't decipher, jolting me awake every time I slept in a rigid chair. Everything was covered in our conversation. We had a scientific project sitting on the kitchen table. She was really enthusiastic about the school dance, and she had been pestering me to get a small black cat. As a nurse, I was served coffee, which I hardly drank. As doctors described scans and pressure measurements, their voices were nearly inaudible. And all the while, a constant low-level terror pulsed through my heart. Will she ever come to... I can't help but wonder what would happen if this same hospital room was my daughter's last resting place. On the 3rd day, I felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins and a pounding headache from sheer weariness. I had skipped my shower, Aside from crackers from the vending machine, I hadn't consumed any food. As I sat by Lily's bed watching her chest slowly rise and fall, my phone started buzzing. My mother's name appeared on the screen. I gazed at it intently, my thumb tethered to the green button. An inner voice begged me to just let it ring out. My answer was prompted by an old reaction nevertheless. "Hey there, Mom." Her tone was abrupt and rapid. "Tonight is the retirement celebration for your father, Madison. Your presence is essential. All the kids, including Emily, are pitching in to help set up. More than 100 individuals are expected. Your absence will only bring shame onto us." My mind had a hard time keeping up. "I can't leave Lily, Mom. She's in a coma and could die." My mom let out a frustrated sigh. "You can't accomplish anything, Madison, if you simply sit there. These tasks are performed by medical professionals. Facing challenges does not absolve you of your family obligations." The lights in the hospital appeared to flicker. I was being told by my mother, the lady who had always drilled responsibility into my head, to leave my daughter's side and go play hostess at a party. I felt parched. "She's not difficult, Mom. My daughter is she. She relies on me." The tone of my mom's voice became quite low and threatening. "There will be repercussions, Madison, if you do not show up. For many years your dad and I have been there for you. Please don't force us to reevaluate our actions regarding Lily's college money. Give serious consideration to the decision you're about to make." The tenuous bond between us eventually broke at that very instant. My mother's final words resounded in my mind like the dreadful sound of church bells as I sat there fixated on the phone. "A college fund for Lily?" For years she dangled it over my head, constantly telling me that my decisions were flawed. However, in this occasion, everything was on the line now. My child's life was lived here. With quivering palms, I gingerly lowered my phone, nearly dropping it on the linoleum floor. A nurse called Grace, who had been carefully observing Lily since the initial night, snuck into the room. As gentle as a lullaby, her voice lulled. "Is there anything I can buy you? Madison, some tea, coffee, perhaps a sandwich?" Her remarks were barely audible as I blinked in her direction. "I just can't leave her." Grace gently placed her hand on my shoulder. "I am aware. A need to eat, sleep, or do something else must be satisfied. My darling, you're really exhausted." As I murmured, tears welled up in my eyes, and I couldn't hold back my laughter. "If I don't attend my father's retirement party, my mother has threatened to deduct money from Lily's college fund." Grace took a deep breath in. "Do you seriously think this is true?" My body language conveyed my disapproval. "Family commitments come first," she remarked. "That my presence is dramatic, and that Lily will continue to breathe regardless of my presence." Grace's lip curled into a narrow line. "My darling, a loving family would never force you to choose between them and the life of your kid. Do you not know that—" My voice quivered. "Am I supposed to—" For the rest of my life, she has consistently portrayed me as the center of the universe and the source of all evil. Angry with me, Grace knelt down beside my chair. "The issue is not with you. You're a mother, standing up for her child. Refuse to listen to anyone who says that's wrong." She seemed so convincing, and I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think that love should be free from conditions. However, I was mentally calculating. My sister Lily's education fund would be jeopardized if my parents severed ties with me. There weren't millions, but there was enough to make a difference. Once again, my phone beeped. This time it's Emily. The broken screen displayed her text. "Come on, Maddie, please. This is just one of Mom's moods. Stay out of Dad's business. If you disappear for a few hours, Lily will be completely unaware." I felt like my chest was about to explode from the strain. Before erasing it, I typed back. Retyped, deleted. After much deliberation, I tucked my phone inside my handbag and fixed my gaze on Lily. Her eyelids blinked ever so slightly, remaining closed. The ventilator hissed and groaned next to her, and her pale lips hardly budged. I crouched down so low that our foreheads were almost touching. "I don't know whether you're listening, but I assure you, my darling, I will never leave you." A sob escaped my lips. "Except for you, I couldn't care less about parties, money, or anything else." Then Grace got to her feet. "Get some water and wash your face, would you? Sit with her, I will. As soon as something changes, I will come and fetch you." I was hesitant. "The time is 20 minutes, that was then." "Sure thing," she declared with conviction. I found myself staring at my reflection in the restroom mirror. Salt streaks drying on my cheeks, red-rimmed eyes, and hair pulled back in a haphazard bun. She was nothing like the prim and proper daughter Eleanor Parker had laboriously cultivated over decades. For an instant, a savage and biting pang of remorse pierced me. Had I been self-centered? Am I simply supposed to show up for the party, pretend to be nice, and avoid conflict? My thoughts then swung to Lily's face, the way she had held my hand when we rode the ski lift last winter, murmuring, "Mommy, I'm afraid if I let go." In addition, I was aware of, right now, I couldn't release my grip. Returning to Lily's room, I saw Dad waiting for me. Charles Parker, uncomfortably positioned at the base of the bed, his posh coat causing his shoulders to slump. "Hello, darling," he said softly. I wanted to dive headfirst into his embrace. I wanted to, but I restrained myself. "Is Mom aware that you're here?" "That's what I inquired." He grimaced. "She's disappointed. She claims you're causing strife inside the family." I let out a long, low snort. "The family is falling apart," you said to your father. "My only concern is the safety of my daughter." Seemed like he was worried I might back away. He cautiously extended his hand. "That would be great if I knew the solution. Mama has always been a firecracker." "But she loves you, Maddie, just not the way you think." I spoke hardly a murmur. "Love may inflict more pain than it alleviates at times." He let out a deep breath. "I will speak with her. Reassure her if you can." We were both aware, but Eleanor Parker was like an unstoppable storm that could only be weathered through. After Dad departed, Lily's monitors started beeping inexplicably. Then Grace burst in. "A few spikes, it's all right. The brain may be active, which would be great." "Stay tuned." I held Lily's hand tightly while my heart pounded against my chest. It would mean the world to me if this was the beginning of her return to me. From someone's phone down the hall, I could faintly hear music outside, a pop tune about dancing and freedom. And for a little moment, I pondered the sensation. I want to be free, as darkness descended upon the medical facility. The only things reflected in the windows were my own weary face and Lily's delicate, quiet figure. Machines made noises that cut through the stillness like a ticking timer for something I had no say over. The second time my phone buzzed was just before midnight. While staring at the television, I did not move. "My name is Emily." After some hesitation, I decided to respond. A strainy mumble was all that came out of her. "My mother is inconsolable, Maddie. For Dad's celebration, she has worked so hard. Everyone is wondering where you are. Why don't you just drop by for an hour?" Soreness in my throat. "A coma has set in for my daughter, Emily." "Exactly why are you asking me this at this very moment?" In a nervous breath, Emily let out a gasp. "Mom says this is typical of you, always making everything about your drama, but I know Lily is unwell. She is concerned about the reactions if you are not present. She's going to spread the word that you're unstable to everyone." A tightness in my chest. Totally unpredictable. Whether it was murmured after a quarrel, shouted during a fight, or used as a sword to keep me submissive, that word has always been there. A tidal surge of anger and sadness washed over me. "Are you listening to yourself, Emily? Death might befall my daughter. There is no drama here. I am living it. Plus, I am not abandoning her, not for my parents, nor for anybody." The only sound was the little static from Emily's breath, which broke the otherwise quiet atmosphere. "I don't want Mom to cut you off," Maddie pleaded with her. "Then she can stop talking to me," I said with an icy tone that shocked even myself. A hushed, "Don't say that," came from Emily. Help is needed for Lily's college expenses, medical costs, etc. My view was clouded by tears. The solution will come to me. If I had to choose between teaching my kid that love entails ignoring those who are most in need and juggling 3 jobs, I would choose the latter. Emily started to weep, her voice low and needy. "I am at a loss for what to do. Mom is going crazy. Dad is attempting to reassure her, but she won't stop saying that you're ruining the family." A severe pain was throbbing behind my temples, so I shut my eyes. "Emily, I am not ruining the family. My goal is to preserve my..." The call was abruptly stopped before she could respond. With trembling hands, I tossed my phone onto the chair next to me. There was a brief period when I sat there gasping for oxygen, like if I had just finished a marathon. At that point, deep within my chest, I sensed a change. A loosening of some kind. An unseen link breaking loose. And I finally understood. I had had enough of apologizing for prioritizing my child's needs before my mother's pride. The door swung open once more exactly 10 minutes after that. Stepping into the room, Eleanor Parker marched confidently, her coat adorned with lingering snowflakes. The pungent and flowery scent of her perfume wafted through the antiseptic air of the hospital. Glancing around, she clenched her jaw and glared. "Okay, Madison, this is as far as it goes." I remained seated, my shoulders clenched. Sitting down next to Lily, I continued to hold her hand. Please, Mom, don't raise your voice. Lily is secure, yet she isn't in need of anxiety. Ignore me, Eleanor said. How embarrassed were we tonight? You have no idea. Whispers circulated that you finally lost it, and people started inquiring where you were. Would you like people to believe you're a crazy, overwhelmed single mother? A chilly serenity washed over me. I don't care what people think. Do not expect me to abandon my daughter. The tip of Eleanor's nose twitched. This egotism, Madison, must end. For years, your decisions have brought shame onto this family. You live in a cramped apartment despite your skill in marriage beneath you, and now you're letting your daughter suffer because you won't take assistance or act appropriately. As I raised my voice, it trembled. Act appropriately. Is that leaving my kid at a party? What you mean, ma'am, she's battling for her very existence. And the way it seems to the neighbors is your only concern. Eleanor had a smirk. You, young woman, don't take that tone personally. As far as we can remember, you and Lily have been the center of our universe. Do you really believe that the trust money and the inheritance appear out of thin air? If you persist in ignoring us, we will have to end any communication with you. When Lily needs medical attention, counseling, or further education, what will happen to her? Has that been considered by you? Oh, Madison, you're really reckless. I felt my heart hammering in my ears. Ever since she was injured, it has been on my mind. Plus, guess what? I will resolve this. Simply said, I would prefer to be poor and truthful than wealthy and dishonest. Her jaw clenched. That's insane. Without us, you have no value. That is not the case and never has been. My legs shook as I cautiously got up, but my voice remained unwavering. No, ma'am. Without her, I am nothing. Plus, I'd prefer that Lily learns that love entails loyalty from an early age, rather than witness my mother's opinion that a party is more important than her daughter. With her wrath visible in her churning breast, Eleanor fixed her intense gaze on me. It appears that you have already decided. The word yes from my lips with the ease of glass. My daughter is the one I pick. With a choked cry that resembled a combination of a snarl and a sob, Eleanor turned on her heel and stomped out of the room, sending echoes of her heels booming down the hall. As the door shut behind it, my eyes landed on Lily, as they murmured, "We're gonna be all right, my love. We can get through this, even if it's only the two of us." I had a sense of liberation, unlike any I had ever felt before in that profound stillness. In the peacefulness, an hour passed by. Something electric like static before a storm was in the air in Lily's room. Automaton buzzed continuously. As they rise and fall, the green lines on the screen are fascinating. I was so exhausted that I didn't see my chin was resting on Lily's blanket when my head drooped downward. I almost fell asleep, because after that I detected a little shift beneath my palm. Blinking, I felt bewildered. I looked down and saw Lily's fingers, quivering. Suddenly I felt a lump in my throat. "Is that you, Lily? You, my darling?" My heart was racing so badly that I was afraid it may break my ribs as I drew nearer. A single double flutter of her eyelashes. After that they opened, although painfully. I looked up into brown eyes that seemed confused and watery. My chest erupted in a choked sob. "Lily, you're awake," I said in shock. She hardly budged when she drew near the ventilation tube. Yet I witnessed her attempting, even struggling to form words that eluded her. I gave her hand a little squeeze. "Stay with me, okay? The doctors will take care of the tube soon." I felt a sudden rush of emotion. With his coat billowing behind him like wings, neurologist Dr. Patel sprinted in. He placed a penlight into Lily's eyes as he crouched over her, tested her reflexes, and then asked her to pinch his fingers. Yes, she did. She did it, although weakly. A wary grin tugged at the corners of Dr. Patel's mouth as he turned to face me. "Mrs. Harper, this is excellent. That was excellent. That she is beginning to return to us is a good sign. We'll go at a leisurely pace, decreasing the sedation even further. If she's stable tomorrow, we can probably remove the tube." I was on the verge of giving up. I clung to Lily's bedside while I quavered with relief. "God, I am so grateful." Lily looked up at me with her moist, sparkling eyes. As a result, for an instant, all was lost. The bright lights, the antiseptic odor, the bickering, the threats, the shame. It was all meaningless. There was nothing else save the feeling of her little hand resting on mine. The subtle magic of her staring into mine from across the room. I drew my brow down to meet hers. "I was frightened when you were here, but now that you're here, that's all that counts, my darling." Her little fingers entwined with me, in the same vein as if to declare, "I am not leaving here." And then it hit me. I knew. Staying wasn't the only thing that had rescued my daughter. I had rescued myself, time passed in a haze, and yet Lily persisted in becoming stronger. Gradually, she resumed speaking, but with a raspy and low voice at initially. Her initial attempt at a whole phrase was, "I am insatiably hungry." It was so funny and sad that I almost got out of my chair. Physical therapy began with her cautious striding across the hospital floor, her hands firmly grasping the parallel bars, and her face wrinkled in intense focus. It was a triumph at every turn, a small return to the life we had hardly escaped. Dr. Patel finally gave her the all-clear to return home. Yet he forewarned us. The road to recovery will not be linear. Memory problems, headaches, and exhaustion are all possibilities. Maintain a serene and encouraging environment for her as you wait. I assured him that I would. We returned to our cozy flat. During the initial days, Lily slept for the most part. The only times she would wake up was to eat toast or inquire about her plush panda. I kept my head down, afraid to miss anything that may indicate disaster. But gradually, she rediscovers her former lust. After supper one night, I discovered her occupied with her sketchbook at the kitchen table, pencil drawing of a mountain with snow on top. That very peak where fate had shifted events centuries before. Her gaze was fixed on me, solemn and serious. "Mom, I hope we may return there someday," fearing it shouldn't last a lifetime. Anxieties and pride entwined in my broken heart. "When you do, my darling, I will be there to support you." A solemn vow. My mother and I continued to have a strained relationship throughout this time. She made an effort in her own way by giving Lily costly jumpers and beautiful fruit bouquets. However, a message oozing with subtle accusations accompanied every present. "Given your insistence on handling everything on your own, I hope this is helpful." Personally, I stayed away. I was aware because keeping the peace, even at the cost of my own identity, was no longer sufficient. Emily became more communicative, sending more pleasant SMS to check in. What's Lily up to now? Even while it wasn't flawless, the bridge was at least functional. From Arizona, Chris's parents soared in. As they sat next to Lily during therapy sessions, the aroma of cinnamon buns wafted through our kitchen. Not once did they ever make me feel like I had any obligation to them other than love. My freelance writing career took off, and I was soon taking on additional clients, staying up late to craft compelling narratives for companies that wanted their words to stand out. Costs were high, and yet I had a sensation of lightness, more liberated, feeling as though the continual burden resting on my chest had at last been released. The what-ifs, medical expenses, and college finances keep me up at night. But then I'd catch a whiff of Lily's chamber as she breathed gently. Not to mention, it was all over, in no way untarnished. However, in a collective sense, I thought that was plenty for the first time. Looking up from my laptop, I noticed my mother standing in my living room. It was a wet Thursday afternoon, 6 weeks after Lily returned home. The ever-elegant Eleanor Parker sat on the wooden floor, her fists clenched so tightly around a leather handbag that her knuckles became white. Her trench coat was pouring water. I went completely still. "Please, Mom, tell me why you're here." She surveyed our haphazard furnishings, the coffee table covered in medical bills, and the walls covered with Lily's crayon drawings. Wet and rebellious, her eyes sparkled. Seeing Lily was essential, but seeing you was even more so. I automatically guarded the gap between us by crossing my arms. "You may have phoned." "You would have hung up," she fired back, her voice quivering. I remained silent. As she approached, the rain continued to sparkle on her locks. Since that fateful night in the hospital, I've been pondering, with regard to everything. I glanced across at her, confused about what was happening next. A nervous exhalation escaped Eleanor. I had the misconception that love required perfection my whole life. No one would ever think less of us because we kept everyone in their place and protected our family's reputation. Nothing bad could happen if I controlled it all, I thought to myself. She sounded trembling. In any case, terrible things occurred. Despite my best efforts, nothing mattered: your father's health, Lily's injury, etc. As if battling a headache, she halted and pressed her fingers to her temples. "I believed you were going to ruin us that night when you prioritized Lily over the celebration. Perhaps, though, you were trying to save face." And she. My throat was constricted and I choked. "Mom, I apologize if I caused you any pain. Leaving my children was simply too much for me." She got her eyelashes wet. "I am aware. Regarding the matter that matters, I am pleased with you." I gasped for air, because those remarks had been said so long ago that I couldn't place them. Before delicately touching my arm, Eleanor extended her hand out to me. I am not skilled in this area, freeing up, recognizing my error, but I really hope we stay together, maybe Lily. My mind raced with 1,000 recollections. The hurtful comments, the letdowns, the unrealistic hopes. On the other hand, I'll never forget the way she'd caress my hair when I was a kid, and the scent of her perfume when she embraced me. Times I had pushed to the back of my mind yet couldn't shake. A nervous breath escaped my lips. I can't return to how things were, Mom. No way. I require limits, for both Lily and me. Despite the tears that were smearing her meticulously placed mascara, Eleanor nodded. I'll give it my best shot, Madison said. I promise that I will give it my best shot. And I actually thought she was serious for the very first time. The icy queen I had always dreaded wasn't Eleanor Parker at that very moment. I mean, she was just my mom, fallible, terrified human. In the stillness of the rain, while we stood there, I came to the realization that perhaps letting go of the past wasn't necessary for healing. It may have simply meant choosing it wouldn't define us anymore. Boston welcomed summer. The days are long, the sun is shining golden light through the windows, and the air is heavy with the fragrance of lilacs in bloom. The scar on Lily's temple was gradually healing, much like a painful memory that no longer bled, but she was back at school part-time with longer hair. She didn't bother to disguise the little limp that she walked with. She glanced up from a novel and inquired one day when we sat on our little balcony, "Do you think we will ever be able to get along with Grandma again, Mom?" I was struck dumb by the question. As I attempted to find the correct expression, I gazed out at the roofs, sunshine reflecting off faraway windows. Sometimes people love each other, but they sometimes harm each other. I don't know, sweetheart. My grandma and I are attempting to decipher it. As usual, Lily cocked her head in contemplation. She had a way of making you appear so little, prior to my accident even. Even though her comments were kind, they cut deep into my soul. Yeah, she did, I confessed. She drew nearer. And you aren't little either, Mom. The most courageous person I've ever met is you. I felt like my heart could burst from the strain of holding my breath. My sincere appreciation, little one. You have no idea how much that means to me. The pages of her book fluttered in the little wind. I couldn't help but reflect on all that we had endured. Healthcare facility, a swarm of buzzing screens, my mother's stern warnings, and the still unmoving reality that I had uncovered, that occasionally, going your own way, isn't self-centered. To survive is the goal. I glanced across at Lily and said, "You know, my darling, you're going to face some tough times in life. Everyone is going to try to influence your identity and decision-making process. Who you are, though, is entirely up to you to say. Also, love, the genuine kind, is unconditional." She gave a half-smile, half-serious nod. "So you stuck around, no matter how much everyone else wished you would just go." "Indeed," I responded, "because you mean the world to me, and you will always be my first priority." Upon seeing him, she grinned. "Next time I'll pick you too." The June light warmed my flesh. I wasn't holding out hope that something bad would happen. It had been years since that happened. I wasn't gauging my value by how others saw it. Just here I was, staying alive, whole. It dawned on me. I wanted to make note of certain things I had learnt and pass them on. Love is fidelity, not dominance. Family units are not doomed when boundaries are in place. Your right to privacy extends even to those who brought you up. Additionally, there are instances when the family you create is more important than the one you were born into, to whoever it may concern, therefore. For those times when you feel pressured to please other people, but also to stay true to yourself. Ever wondered if you were enough when standing in a hospital room, a peaceful kitchen, or while lying awake at 3 in the morning? What I want to express is, yeah, you totally are. On occasion, the decision that ultimately liberates you is the most difficult one you will ever face. If any of this struck a chord with you, please share yours with me. Leave a comment, give it a like, and subscribe for more tales like this one. You have company. Not to mention, choosing a family may be a lifesaver at times.